You eat every single day. Breakfast, lunch, dinner, maybe a snack at 2 a.m. when nobody is watching. But have you ever stopped to think, what did humans eat before supermarkets existed? Before restaurants? Before farming? Before fire? What did the very first humans put in their mouths every single morning just to stay alive? The answer is going to make you look at your next meal very differently, and some of it is going to make your stomach turn. First, forget the image you have in your head of ancient humans sitting around a fire eating a perfectly cooked leg of meat. That is a movie. That is not reality. For most of human prehistory, most of it, food was not guaranteed. There was no breakfast. There was no lunch. There was no dinner. There was just, did you find something today? Because if you didn't eat. Simple as that. Ancient humans did not eat on a schedule. They ate when they could, and what they ate would make most people today physically sick just looking at it. So what was actually on the menu? Let's start from the very beginning. Before fire, before tools, before anything. Early humans ate what they could find with their bare hands, and that meant everything. Berries, roots, leaves, nuts, seeds, fruit when they could find it, insects, and not just occasionally. Insects were a primary food source. Beetles, grubs, larvae, termites, packed with protein, easy to find, no hunting required. If you lifted a rock and found something crawling underneath it, congratulations, that was dinner. And then there was meat, but not the way you are thinking. Early humans were not apex predators. They were not the ones doing the killing most of the time. They were scavengers. They followed lions and leopards and waited for the predator to finish eating. Then, when the big animal walked away, they ran in, fast, before the hyenas got there. And they ate whatever was left. The scraps, the parts the lion didn't want, the bones. And here's the part that will genuinely shock you. They ate the bones too. Not by chewing through them, by smashing them open with rocks to get to the marrow inside. Bone marrow was one of the most important foods in the early human diet. Rich in fat, rich in calories, easy to extract once you knew how. Ancient humans were cracking bones open for marrow long before they were hunting anything themselves. Let's go back to insects for a moment, because this is important, and most people skip over it. Insects were not a backup plan. They were not what ancient humans ate when nothing else was available. They were a staple, a reliable, consistent, year-round food source that required almost no effort to obtain. Termite mounds alone could feed a group of ancient humans for days. Termites are roughly 40% protein. Some beetle larvae are over 50% fat, exactly what an ancient human body needed to survive cold nights and long days of walking. Scientists estimate that insects made up a significant portion of the ancient human diet for millions of years. Today, about 2 billion people around the world still eat insects regularly. It is only Western culture that finds the idea repulsive. Your ancient ancestors would have found your repulsion completely baffling. To them, a handful of fat grubs was a good meal. Now here is where the story gets interesting. Around 1 million years ago, give or take, humans discovered fire, and food was never the same again. Before fire, everything was eaten raw. Raw meat, raw roots, raw whatever you could find. But fire did something extraordinary to food. It broke down tough fibers that human teeth and stomachs couldn't handle. It killed parasites and bacteria that would have made raw meat deadly. It made calories easier to absorb. Cooked food gives your body significantly more energy than the same food eaten raw, and it made things taste dramatically better. The moment ancient humans started cooking food, their brains started getting more energy. More energy to the brain meant more brain development. What you eat for dinner tonight is directly connected to why you are smart enough to watch this video. Think about that. With fire came better tools. With better tools came actual hunting. And now the menu expanded dramatically. Ancient humans started hunting large animals. Mammoths, aurochs, giant deer, wild horses. But here's what most people don't realize about ancient hunting. It was not every day. A successful large animal hunt could happen once a week, once every 2 weeks, sometimes less. When it happened, it was a massive event. The entire group ate. They ate as much as they possibly could in one sitting because they had no way to preserve the meat for long. No refrigerator, no salt preservation yet, just raw hunger and the knowledge that this meat would rot within days. Ancient humans gorged themselves when food was available because they had no idea when the next meal was coming. That feast or famine cycle, eating everything when you can because tomorrow might bring nothing, is still written into your biology today. It is why humans find it so hard to stop eating when food is delicious and abundant. Your body still thinks a big meal might be the last one for a while. Now here is something that surprises most people. Despite the image of ancient humans as pure meat eaters, plants were actually the backbone of the ancient human diet. For most prehistoric humans, plants provided the majority of daily calories. Tubers, underground root vegetables, were especially important. They are hard to find, hard to dig up, and hard to chew raw, but they are packed with carbohydrates, exactly what a body needs for energy. Ancient humans spent enormous amounts of time and effort digging up tubers with sticks and rocks. Then fire made them edible in a completely new way. Roasted tubers were probably one of the most commonly eaten foods in ancient human history, something that looked and tasted a little like a primitive baked potato. Ancient humans also ate wild grains, grinding seeds between rocks to make a rough paste long before anyone invented bread. The first bread was not baked in an oven. It was probably a lump of crushed grain paste pressed onto a hot rock beside a fire. Flat, dense, chewy, and nothing like what you get from a bakery today. But to an ancient human, it was extraordinary. So what did a typical day of eating actually look like for an ancient human? Let's walk through it. Early morning, no breakfast waiting. You wake up and immediately start moving, searching. The group spreads out looking for anything edible. Someone finds a patch of berries. Someone else digs up some roots. A child spots a termite mound, and the group descends on it quickly. This might take 2 to 3 hours of walking and searching. Mid-morning, if the group is lucky, someone has found enough plant food to take the edge off the hunger. Not a full meal, just enough to keep moving. If it rained recently, mushrooms might be available. If it's the right season, certain fruits are ripe. Ancient humans had an extraordinary knowledge of their environment. They knew exactly which plants were edible, which were poisonous, which roots were worth digging for, and what time of year everything was available. This knowledge was passed down through generations and was literally the difference between life and death. Afternoon, if the men went hunting and were successful, the group eats properly. If not, it is more foraging, more roots, more insects, more whatever can be found. Evening, beside the fire, the day's findings are shared, cooked if possible, eaten communally, and then sleep, often still a little hungry, always uncertain about tomorrow. Now let's talk about some specific things ancient humans ate that would genuinely shock a modern person. Clay. Ancient humans in many parts of the world ate clay deliberately, not by accident, on purpose, because certain types of clay contain minerals the body needs. Calcium, iron, magnesium. Pregnant women especially craved clay because their bodies needed minerals for the developing baby. This behavior, eating non-food substances for their mineral content, is called geophagy, and it still happens today in parts of Africa and South America. Ancient humans also ate the stomach contents of animals they killed. When you hunt a herbivore and open its stomach, inside is partially digested plant material, already broken down, already fermented slightly. To an ancient human, that was valuable. Pre-digested plant matter was easier to absorb than raw plants. Yes, they ate that, and eyes, and brains, and every single organ in the body. Nothing was wasted, ever. In a world where your next meal was never guaranteed, throwing away food was simply not something that happened. So the next time you open your fridge and complain there is nothing to eat, remember this: your ancient ancestors spent hours every single day just trying to find enough calories to survive. They ate insects by the handful. They cracked open bones for the fat inside. They scraped out animal stomachs and called it a meal. They ate clay when their bodies told them to. And somehow, through all of that, they survived. They thrived. They built the foundations of everything that eventually became the world you live in today. Every meal you eat without thinking about it is the result of millions of years of humans figuring out, one stomach at a time, what keeps a human being alive. And tonight when you sit down to eat, whatever is on your plate is probably better than what was on theirs. Probably. If this made you think differently about your next meal, there is so much more where that came from. Every strange thing about being human has a story that goes back further than you think. Subscribe to Strangely, and next time, we ask another question you never thought to ask.